Hey beautiful, have you considered subscribing to our channel? It helps us make quality content for you. Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers.
The arena reeked of ionized blood and molten metal, a scent that clung to the nose like regret. Above the churning sands of the Colosseum of Trelvor, thousands of sentient beings roared for slaughter. Their calls, emitted from beaks, throats, vents and glands, echoed beneath a dome of transparent alloy that separated them from the spectacle of sanctioned violence. Varric Tor stood alone in the center, his armor glinting under the twin suns of Trell. Nearly 3 meters tall, his silhouette resembled that of an ancient titan reborn, broad-shouldered, barrel-chested, his obsidian exoplating scarred from 100 victories. The air shimmered around him, not with heat, but with restrained violence. His opponent, a mechanized war priest from the Corthan fracture, surged forward on piston-driven limbs, brandishing plasma blades and screeching verses of ancestral code. Varric Tor didn't flinch. His left arm rose in a motion faster than the eye could track. A thunderclap. A spear of crackling dark matter struck the war priest mid-lunge, splitting it in two. The audience howled with approval. Varric Tor didn't react to the praise. The kill had been clean, efficient, undeserving of celebration. Another day, another opponent, another predictable ending. From a gilded booth suspended high above the arena, the Galactic Council watched, not with awe, but with calculation. Each species, cloaked in the ceremonial garb of their civilization, studied the warrior through lenses of fear and necessity. The Drenari Chancellor tapped a tentacled digit against the screen embedded in the armrest of his levitating chair. "That makes 47 consecutive executions without injury," he muttered. "And not a single recorded emotional deviation," added the crystalline representative of the Yix Confederation, her voice like shattered glass reassembling itself. Counselor Nymar of the Thalkesh leaned forward, his reptilian eyes narrow. "He grows bored." The chamber quieted. Boredom in someone like Varric Tor was a dangerous precursor. Warriors of his caste, gene-engineered in the forges of the Zinthari foundry worlds, were built for eternal war. Restlessness in one so lethal could unravel entire sectors. "He's becoming unpredictable," said the Arcoran delegate. "We should decommission him." The suggestion hovered in the air like a poisonous gas. "No," Nymar replied. "We don't discard tools, we reassign them." Eyes turned toward him. "Send him to Earth." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Earth was a fringe planet, unaligned, technologically juvenile, and barely out of its own atmosphere 2 centuries prior. Yet its trajectory was watched. Its species, humans, had demonstrated disturbing adaptability. Tenacious, unyielding, brutal when cornered. There were whispers that the Terrans had begun interfering with Council assets on the frontier. "Backwater planet for a broken sword," muttered the Drenari. Nymar's slit pupils gleamed. "Or a mirror that shows him what he truly is." Approval was given. The decision was sealed. Later, in the steel sanctum of his personal vessel, Varric Tor stood alone before a panoramic viewport. Stars crawled past in slow procession. He'd been summoned by the Council not long after his latest match and informed of his new mission: observation, study, non-engagement. It was insult masquerading as purpose. He was the apex weapon of the Zinthari gene forges, the conqueror of 7, campaigns the butcher of the Sunkin heresy, and they would send him to catalog primitive bipeds. His fingers clenched the alloy railing. It groaned under his strength. "Earth," he said aloud. The name tasted strange, not repulsive, unfamiliar. He reviewed the data packet again. A species prone to internecine conflict. Biological limitation offset by ingenuity. Their capacity for violence was notable but unrefined. Their current stage of development hovered between self-destruction and planetary unification. In short, unstable, and yet curious. The footage intrigued him. Human soldiers in archaic armor running toward gunfire, survivors crawling through collapsed buildings to drag the wounded to safety, scientists launching fragile machines into voids just to glimpse their own insignificance, artists painting grief, children laughing in bomb shelters. They were not efficient. They were not optimal, but they were alive. A sharp beep interrupted his thoughts. A council broadcast pinged his neural relay. "Warrior Varric Tor," said the cold voice of the relay AI. "Your vessel is now en route to Terran space. Estimated arrival, 17 cycles. Mission parameters are non-interventionist. You are to observe and report. Any deviation from this will be recorded as insubordination." He shut it off without acknowledgement. Later, in the privacy of his meditative chamber, he removed his helm and stared at his reflection in the blackened steel. The face that looked back at him was not quite monstrous, not quite human. Scars lined, his features like rivers through stone. His eyes, a deep emerald flecked with gold, bore the weight of every fallen world. He spoke to no one. "What do you fear, Council?" he whispered. "That I will learn from them, or that I will teach them?" The dreadnought's engines hummed like a distant heartbeat, propelling him toward a world unknown. Far from Trelvor, in a sealed chamber beneath the surface of Draxilon Prime, Counselor Nemar convened with 3 others behind security fields and dampening arrays. "We proceed as planned," he said. "Varric Tor believes this is exile. Let him. And if he sides with them, ask the Yik's representative." Nemar's eyes narrowed. "Then Earth will serve its final purpose as a crucible. If they break, the threat is neutralized. If they survive, perhaps it is time the old order fell." A silence followed, not of dissent but of calculation. Back aboard his vessel, Varric Tor entered the combat simulator. He engaged a dozen opponents modeled after the fiercest warriors known to the Council. He dispatched them all in minutes. But when the simulation ended, he did not restart it. Instead, he requested a new scenario. "Terran engagement," he said. "No weapons. Unarmed combat. Maximum unpredictability." The system hesitated. Then, parameters accepted. The first figure appeared. A human male, average build, wearing camouflage fatigues. Varric Tor approached cautiously. The human feinted, then launched into a combination of strikes. Brutal, swift, imprecise. But it worked. For a moment, Varric Tor faltered. He smiled. For the first time in cycles, he smiled. The simulation ended with the human unconscious on the floor. Varric Tor stood over him, chest rising, pulse elevated. He saved the file. Hours later, as the stars shifted into unfamiliar constellations, Earth came into view, a pale blue world, swirling with weather and teeming with noise. Varric Tor narrowed, his eyes. Let them be monsters. Let them be saviors. Let them be. He would learn everything he could. And if the Council came for them, he would decide then where his allegiance truly lay. The night sky above the Syrian desert flickered with tracer fire. Shadows danced across broken walls and burnt-out vehicles, painting war like a fever dream. Major Alex Reyes moved low and fast between cover, his breathing controlled, his weapon steady. Dust clung to his beard and sweat soaked his undershirt beneath the body armor. Around him, his team, ghosts in the dark, exchanged fire with a local militia that had been too well armed for a supposed fringe group. Intel had been wrong. Again. 6 o'clock RPG, someone shouted. The explosion cracked the earth like a god's fist. Reyes hit the ground hard, ears ringing. When the dust settled, he could barely hear the voices on comms. The enemy was advancing. His squad was cut in half, pinned down. Their extraction bird was 10 minutes out, an eternity in that kind of fight. He crawled to a shattered wall and peered over it. Heat signatures popped in his HUD. Too many. The militia had them boxed in. This would end in blood. Reyes checked his last mag and sighed. Then everything changed. The air above the battlefield shimmered. Static electricity surged through the ruined street. Lights flickered, then died. A sound, a low harmonic pulse, vibrated through the bones of every living thing. Reyes ducked instinctively as a shape dropped from the sky like a predator unleashed. It was massive, plated in dark metal that rippled like liquid obsidian. It landed with such force the ground shook. At first, Reyes thought it was some new Russian drone. Until it moved. Not with the erratic jitter of AI, but the smooth precision of something alive. Its posture was bipedal, yet wrong. Taller than a man, broader, every movement laced with suppressed violence. Two glowing eyes tracked the battlefield with surgical interest. The thing raised its arm. A humming lance of violet energy exploded outward, cleaving a militia vehicle in half. Before the second could react, it turned and swept a column of plasma through the building where snipers had nested. Walls melted. Screams ended. The remaining militia broke and ran. Reyes remained on one knee, rifle raised but unused. The other members of his team emerged slowly from cover, equally stunned. The alien, there was no other word, stood still, observing. Then it deactivated its weapon and stepped forward. No one spoke until Reyes did. "Who the hell are you?" The creature's voice emerged from a hidden speaker, translated through layered filters. "I am Varaktor. I have come to study this planet. You are designated as a combatant class. Therefore, I begin with you." Reyes didn't lower his rifle. His instincts screamed at him, but another part of him, a lifetime of sizing up men in war, held back. "You saving our asses part of that study?" A pause, then, "I do not permit dishonorable kills. They outnumbered you. That is not battle. That is execution." One of Reyes's men muttered, "Jesus." Reyes finally lowered the rifle. "You came alone?" "I am enough." The silence that followed was thick with disbelief, but Reyes saw it. The way the thing, Varaktor, stood. No fear, no hesitation. A being designed for war but seeking something more. They brought him back to base under watch. Drones tailed the alien at all times. Snipers were positioned along rooftops. Reyes filed his report and waited for the inevitable government clampdown. Instead, he received orders to keep him talking, understand his goals, assess the threat. Varaktor made no demands. He accepted quarantine protocols. He subjected himself to scans. He corrected their diagnostics when they failed to understand the architecture of his body. The scientists were terrified. The generals were intrigued. The politicians didn't know what to do. Reyes spent more time with him than anyone else. At first, it was duty. Then it became something else. Curiosity, maybe. Not trust. Never that. But there was something in the way the alien moved through their base as if searching for a question he didn't know how to ask. They trained together on the third day. Reyes challenged him in unarmed combat. The match lasted 40 seconds. Reyes ended up face first in the dirt, his ribs bruised, pride dented. Varaktor extended a hand, pulling him up without smugness. "You are slower than predicted," he said, almost conversationally. "But you adapt quickly." "Gee, thanks," Reyes muttered. "You fight with intention, not instinct. That is rare among your kind." Reyes wiped blood from his mouth. "You talk like you've met a lot of us." "I have not. But I have studied war. Yours is unfocused, yet it has heart." The compliment, if it was one, took him off guard. Over the following days, Reyes watched Varaktor interact with others. He was never rude, never hostile, but always detached. He didn't understand small talk. He observed everything, down to the behavior of ants along a fence. He asked questions that left scientists speechless. Why do humans wage war on themselves? Why do they mourn the fallen but honor the killers? Why do children laugh even in rubble? He watched old footage of Earth's conflicts, not the grand ones, the small ugly wars, civil breakdowns, acts of sacrifice, riot medics dragging wounded protesters to safety, firefighters running toward burning buildings in cities they'd never seen before that moment. One night, Reyes found him standing alone outside the base perimeter. The alien watched the stars unmoving. "You looking for home?" Reyes asked. "I am measuring distance," Varaktor replied. "To what?" Varaktor didn't answer. Inside a hidden chamber on a ship still cloaked in Earth's orbit, alien eyes watched every moment. The Council's probe, embedded in Varaktor's cranial relay, transmitted constant data. Some members of the Galactic Council viewed the footage with fascination, others with alarm. He was deviating from mission protocol. He was engaging. Worse, he was empathizing. "Terminate the experiment," said one voice. "No," said another. "Let it continue. If the humans are truly what he believes them to be, we must be certain." Reyes noticed it too. Varric was changing. The alien's questions grew more personal, not just about humanity, but about Reyes, his life, his childhood, his family, what it meant to love, to grieve, to remember. "Why do you carry the names of your dead?" Varric asked once, noticing the tattoo on Reyes's forearm. "Call signs of fallen comrades, so I don't forget what they gave up," Reyes said. "For what cause?" He hesitated. "Each other." Varric was silent for a long time. "My people do not carry names of the dead, only records of their final kills." "Maybe that's your problem." The alien didn't argue. Then, without warning, came the anomaly, a communications blackout. The sky above flickered again. This time, it wasn't Varric. Reyes's team scrambled into alert. Radar picked up an object entering Earth's atmosphere, fast, controlled, cloaked until the final second. It landed just outside the base perimeter with seismic impact. By the time they reached the crater, a small silver obelisk pulsed in the sand, humming with Council signature energy. Varric stood in front of it, motionless. "What is that?" Reyes asked. Varric didn't look at him. A warning. The obelisk projected a hologram. Council insignias, unreadable glyphs, then a message in Terran standard. "Cease all interaction. Earth is under evaluation. Prepare for sterilization protocol should deviation continue." Reyes went cold. "Sterilization?" Varric hands clenched. The energy around him shifted, palpable. "They feared this," he said. "That I would see too much. Learn too much. You are not a threat yet, but they will make you one, to justify your destruction." Reyes stepped forward. "Can you stop them?" Varric turned. His eyes, always cold, burned now with something else. Fury, perhaps, or purpose. "I was their weapon," he said. "Now I am their liability." "Then stay," Reyes said. "Help us. Whatever's coming, we'll need every edge we've got." There was no promise, not yet. But Varric didn't walk away. The obelisk was destroyed that night. By whom? No one could prove. But the message was clear. The Council was watching. And war was no longer a distant possibility. It was an approaching certainty. "You said..." Varric stood at the edge of the cliff, the wind howling around him as though the earth itself were whispering secrets into his ears. Below, the valley swelled with morning mist, hiding the scars of human conflict beneath a veneer of serenity. His armor, once an instrument of terror and reverence across the galaxies, now bore the dust and scratches of Earth. It was not wear, but transformation. It had ceased to be a badge of conquest, and instead became a vessel of quiet observation. Behind him, Major Alex Reyes approached silently, boots crunching against frost-hardened soil. He didn't speak at first. He'd learned that Varric valued silence more than idle noise, and some warnings were best left unspoken. "They'll come, won't they?" Reyes said finally, voice low. "They will," Varric replied. "The Council does not offer warnings. It prepares narratives. Sterilization protocol. That's what the message said." Varric shoulders rose slightly, the movement almost imperceptible. "They will not call it that. They will frame it as a corrective measure, a quarantine enforcement, a necessary defense against cultural infection." Reyes spat into the dirt. "Sanitized language for genocide." Exactly. The days since. The obelisk's appearance had turned the base into a crucible. Scientists pored over Council data, trying to decipher its intent. Military analysts weighed Earth's non-existent odds in the event of full-scale contact. Politicians issued vague press releases about cosmic developments, while secretly drawing up worst-case scenario plans that involved little more than bunkers and prayers. And through it all, Varric remained, a titan among men, watching, learning, and increasingly warning. The turning point came during a raid in Eastern Europe. A rogue council agent, an Arcoran separatist named Velen Ka, had embedded himself among a splinter human faction, supplying them with alien weaponry in exchange for local influence. The council officially denied his existence, but the evidence said otherwise. The weapons were decades ahead of Earth tech: plasma-based rifles, drones with adaptive camouflage, microgravity mines. Reyes led the mission to eliminate the cache before it destabilized an already fragile region. Varric demanded to join. Command resisted. Reyes insisted. They compromised. Varric would remain unarmed, observation only. They touched down under moonlight, the team moving like shadows through rusted factories and skeletons of dead civilization. Varric followed, a silent presence. But when the shooting started, the rules dissolved. The plasma rounds tore through concrete like paper. Reyes's team took cover behind what little was left. 2 men were down before they'd even reached the objective. The enemy, human in shape but moving with unnatural precision, pressed the advantage. And then Varric moved. Not with the fury of a berserker, but the precision of a master surgeon. He intercepted a projectile mid-flight, letting it melt against his palm. He disarmed one of the council-backed mercenaries with a flick of his arm, sending the rifle into the wall. Reyes watched in awe and horror as Varric dismantled their enemy. Not killed them, but incapacitated them. Each movement measured, non-lethal, surgical. Velen emerged at the height of the skirmish, draped in shimmering armor, his voice dripping with disdain. "You've fallen far, Zenthari Hound. Reduced to shepherding primitives?" Varric stepped forward, unarmed. "You bring council weapons to a world not prepared. You violate the code." Velen sneered. "The code is obsolete. This planet will die screaming, and you waste your time among its soon-to-be ashes." Reyes raised his weapon. "You want to find out how soon we burn, you son of a—" But Varric extended a hand, stopping him. "Return to your masters," he said to Velen. "Tell them this planet is not theirs." The Arcoran laughed. "And what will you do, traitor? Bleed for them? Die for them?" "I have done both before. I am not afraid to do it again." Velen retreated through a warp shroud, vanishing with a flash of pale light. Afterward, as Reyes's team recovered and collected the alien weapons, Varric stood alone near the edge of the battlefield. The bodies of his enemies were broken, but breathing. "You didn't kill any of them," Reyes said, approaching with a half-limping stride. "They are symptoms," Varric replied. "The council is the disease. You could have slaughtered them. You've done worse for less." Varric turned slowly, eyes glowing faintly beneath his helm. "Killing them would have proven the council right. They fear what I am. I must become what they never expected." "And what's that?" "A choice." The words clung to Reyes like smoke. He knew what was coming. So did Varric. The council wouldn't tolerate open defiance. Velen had been a test, a probe, a provocation, and Earth had not flinched. They returned to the base in silence, but the gears of fate had shifted. Within the week, the council's fleet entered the Sol system. Not with weapons bared, but cloaked beneath layers of diplomacy. Their flagship appeared in high orbit, a glittering fortress of alien engineering. It broadcast a single, universal message: "We come in peace. Earth is invited to the Galactic Council to discuss integration and mutual security." Reyes, watching the transmission, didn't buy it for a second. "They're trying to preempt you," he told Varric. "If Earth joins willingly, they don't have to sterilize us. They'll break us from the inside." Varric nodded. "They always offer chains that shine." The world's leaders gathered virtually and debated for hours, days. Fear waged war with ambition. The promise of technological advancement, medical miracles, energy solutions, interstellar travel, dangled before them like a trap baited with hope. But humanity wasn't unified. Not yet. And then Varric spoke. It was a broadcast unlike any other. No one saw him prepare it. No one knew when he began. But every screen, every device, every open frequency on Earth suddenly carried his voice. I am Varric Tor, it began. I speak not as a council agent nor as an invader, but as a witness to their design. Earth stands at a crossroads. You are offered peace, but what follows is not peace. It is submission. The visuals that accompanied his voice were unfiltered. Planets sterilized. Cultures erased. Civilizations reduced to sterile archives under council flags. Peace bought with the blood of identity. I have seen your world, Varric Tor continued. Your chaos, your fire, your unyielding will. You are not ready for integration, because you are still becoming, and that is your strength. Do not let them tame you. The broadcast lasted only 3 minutes, but the impact was seismic. Some world leaders demanded his immediate extradition. Others hailed him as a guardian. Civilians protested outside embassies. Artists painted his image on walls. Children named imaginary heroes after him. The council responded with silence. Reyes sat beside Varric Tor in a quiet observation room, watching the chaos unfold across Earth's networks. You just became the most wanted being in the galaxy, Reyes said. I already was, Varric Tor replied. You think they'll come in guns blazing now? They won't need to. They'll send someone like me. Worse, perhaps. Unburdened by doubt. Reyes leaned forward. Then we prepare, together. Varric Tor looked at him. The silence that followed was not empty. It was an agreement. Above them, the council fleet drifted in shadow. Waiting, calculating, preparing. But so was Earth. And at its heart stood a warrior forged in alien war, reborn in human defiance, no longer a weapon of the council, but a choice made flesh. The stars shimmered above Earth like cold witnesses, distant and uncaring. High in orbit, the Galactic Council's fleet shifted formation, no longer cloaked in diplomatic ambiguity. Their flagship, a monstrous vessel known as the Judicator, activated, its forward array, silently charging weapon systems that had annihilated civilizations more advanced than Earth could ever dream to be. But this time, the Council was not just facing a planet of unready primitives. They were facing something worse. Defiance. Inside Earth's hastily assembled Defense Command in Geneva, Major Alex Reyes stared at a wall of tactical feeds, satellites, tracked movement. Global forces scrambled into position, hopelessly outmatched. Civilian shelters filled to capacity. The world braced for what everyone now called the reckoning. And standing at the center of it all, like a black obelisk of intent, was Varric Tor. He wore his armor now fully integrated, not as a symbol of council allegiance, but as a rejection of it. The sigils across his plating had been scorched off. In their place, Earth symbols had been carefully etched, tribal, military, even mathematical equations. A patchwork identity, forged not from heritage but from choice. You know they'll send someone to kill you before this escalates, Reyes said, eyes on the live feed of the Council's second ship-breaking orbit. They already have, Varric Tor replied calmly. His name is Kirel Vox, a prime executioner. My predecessor. Reyes turned. You said there were no others like you. There weren't. Until they built one. Varric Tor's voice carried no fear. But there was a weight to it. A sense that what was coming could not be avoided, only met. Tell me straight, Reyes said. Can we survive this? Varric Tor didn't look away. No, not conventionally, not with force, but you can survive them. If I win. It wasn't comfort, but it was enough. The attack began in the dark silence of the upper atmosphere. A council. Drop pod tore through Earth's magnetosphere like a meteor, encased in a cocoon of ablative alloy and kinetic shielding. It landed in the Mojave Desert, carving a canyon into the sand. The blast radius flattened rock formations and sent shockwaves across 4 states, and from that crater rose Kirel Vox. He was taller than Varric Tor, heavier, clad in next-gen armor that shimmered with psionic energy fields. His face was masked. No eyes, no mouth. only a single glowing slit that pulsed with malevolent calm. Earth's satellites locked on. Every military branch offered to engage. Verector refused. He is mine. They met in the wastes of the Nevada test range, once a site of human nuclear arrogance, now reborn as a theater for an alien duel unlike any the world had seen. Reyes watched from a satellite feed, fists clenched. Kirill Vox struck first, an energy spear hurled with such force it shattered a ridge behind Verector even after he dodged. But Varric didn't retaliate. Not yet. He studied the movements. An assassin's, patience behind a warrior's stance. You disappoint me, brother, Kirill's voice hissed through atmospheric translation. You choose infestation over order. I choose freedom, Verector replied. Kirill lunged. Their impact cracked the earth, sent sand into the sky like smoke. Blows traded at supersonic speed. Each strike could have leveled a tank. The duel moved across the terrain like lightning, leaving scars in bedrock and fire in its wake. But Kirill was designed to kill, and Verector was designed to evolve. He adapted, shifted, absorbed hits he shouldn't have survived. Used Earth's uneven terrain against Kirill, drove him into rocky outcrops, redirected kinetic force with deceptive grace. But Kirill had an advantage. He was still tethered to the Council's battle net, constantly fed countermeasures. And Varric was alone, until Reyes intervened. From an old NORAD bunker, Reyes made the call. A covert EMP device, one of Earth's only technological trump cards, was deployed via stealth drone over the battlefield. It dropped with surgical precision, exploding in a silent wave of anti-tech fury. Kirill staggered. His battle net flickered. Varric didn't hesitate. He drove into the gap, hitting with a hammer blow that cracked Kirill's chest plate. Another hit to the head, a feint, then a pivot. He disarmed the spear and plunged it through Kirill's midsection. But Kirill grabbed the shaft, dragging himself forward along the embedded weapon. You think yourself human, he rasped. You are nothing. I am choice, Varric said, and tore the spear sideways. Kirill fell, systems failing, energy bleeding into the sand. In his final moment, he asked, Why? Verector knelt beside him. Because they gave me something the Council never could. Kirill's voice faded. Permission to feel, then silence. Above Earth, the Council fleet went dark for 13 minutes. Long enough for Reyes to wonder if the message had been received. Long enough for every major world capital to brace for retaliation. But the retaliation never came. Instead, the flagship turned. One by one, the ships began exiting Earth's orbit, warping out into deep space. A single broadcast was received, heavily encoded, spoken in High Vordari, an ancient council dialect. Reyes had it translated. We have lost control of our creation, and perhaps gained something greater. The world exhaled. In the days that followed, Verector became a figure of myth. Not a savior, he insisted, not a hero. Just a witness who chose to stand between extinction and freedom. He rejected titles, avoided podiums. But he walked the cities he'd saved, spoke to children, walked among the ruins of old wars. And one night, as Reyes joined him on a hill overlooking New Mexico, he asked the question that had lingered longest. Why us? Verector looked at the stars. Because you are still unfinished. In that, there is hope and danger, but you've earned the right to face it. Reyes nodded. So what now, you stay? Verector's gaze remained upward. They will come again. Others. Not just the Council. The galaxy is wide. You will need someone who understands what waits beyond your sky. And that someone is you. I was born for war, Verector said. But now perhaps I fight for peace. A silence passed between them. Then Reyes smiled faintly. You ever consider a code name? Verector tilted his head. Explain. Something Earth-style, like Guardian, Sentinel, maybe even Ironheart, Verector said softly, almost as if the word came from somewhere deep within. newly formed yet already worn with meaning. Reyes nodded. Not bad. The wind stirred the dust around their boots. Above them, stars burned on. And humanity, once ignored by the cosmos, now stood unbowed, defiant, and watched over by the one warrior the galaxy had failed to break. A warrior not born of Earth, but now claimed by it, Varictor, the Council's deadliest creation, now humanity's greatest protector.